I got into whip artistry kind of happenstance. I was watching an old movie called Don Q, Son of Zorro, and it was on our local PBS station, and I was about 12 years old and sort of sequestered in the house. And I had been working at my family farm for years trying to figure out how to get weeds and things away from electric fence without getting hit by the thing. But what I eventually did after watching this film, I thought, you know, I can do all the stuff I saw Douglas Fairbanks doing. And he was putting candles out and grabbing things and doing all this great stuff. So I went out to the barn and I got this horribly bad whip that I don't even know why I had it. Why would you give it? You know, I had it for years, so a 5 or 6 year old kid had a bullwhip for whatever reason. And I went out there and started working at it, and I learned it well enough that the first things I was doing were things I don't teach a student until much later, which is like how to grab a stick or something like that and pull it out of the fence row and cut weeds and things.
The whip, invented over 10,000 years ago, has been used for many things. During the Wild West, cowboys would use the whip to get the lead bull moving.
You got that big noise and you would learn different kinds of cracks, and there are multiple cracks you can learn that will get different animals respond to it differently. So you get that moving. You never ever hit an animal. If you did that at the time you were running a stampede, and you know, people were going to die. So they were very careful. They got to be very good at it and very precise. You know, they're picking horse flies off of their lead animals, not even flinching. They would be that precise with it.
So what's the science involved in making the whip crack?
As the energy leaves your hand, it's traveling down the whip, and the whip is getting smaller. And as it travels down that, it picks up speed. So it's the same thing that causes a figure skater, when they pull their body in close together, to go faster. The bulk, essentially, gets smaller, and the energy can be utilized more efficiently. So the whip rolls down, and as it comes out of its barrel roll, it hits the air at a certain speed, and that speed is at least 760 miles an hour, which is the speed of the sound barrier. Breaks the sound barrier, you get the big crack, and then it finishes its roll. A lot of people think it happens at the end, but it actually happens just before that. When you are aware of all the moves that the whip can make based on your hand motion or how you turn your body or how your head is moved, it sounds ridiculous, but it really does play a part in that. It's very much like a martial art in that it's a minimalistic kind of mentality. You want to use as little energy as possible to create the best effect or the largest effect. So I ended up performing all through the years, from everywhere from a town festival to big corporate events, and I've been doing that ever since. Today I do a lot of things. I get called to do television shows, I get called to do indie films. I've done some work with feature films, and now I design props and equipment that go with the whip. And I do some choreography and stunt work and things like that. And the biggest thing is holding the audience and getting them involved in what you're doing. And they just enjoy it. And that's fun for me. I've never suffered from stage fright. So my biggest worry was typically my wife was holding the target. Is it going to be a long ride home or not? Did I get it? Did I not get it? You know, how close was I on that playing card? And did she wince? I didn't see her wince, so I must have gone okay.
I got started as Jerry's assistant not long after we started dating.
One of the first shows I threw her into was 500 people. And then the next thing you know, we're on a national TV show.
Jerry had us on national TV not 4 months after I started working with him. That first show that I participated with him on was the Steve Harvey Show. And after that, we were also on America's Got Talent, and we were on the Bonnie Hunt Show, and we've also been on local TV here as well. We've gotten to the point where she knows what I'm going to do by a look or a glance. She knows the order of the show, and any magician can tell you it's the assistant that runs everything. When I first met him, Jerry didn't have an assistant. He was doing shows just on his own, and he would sometimes pick people out of the audience, or he would do tricks that he could do solitary. After that, we sort of moved on to a lot of the things you'll see us do, which were wraps. The whip comes around my body. Putting out candles, cutting a newspaper, cutting a flower out of my mouth, any number of things like that.
think you're probably jerking it out of the air a little quick. Let it go all the way back and then around. Because you want to have it, remember that whole stretching out that we do back here? You want to have that, do that up here as well. It stretches out.
Jerry's Whip Studio attracts about 200 students per year. They range in age from 9 to 90.
They range in background, a lot of things. There are people who are just interested for the sport aspect of it. There's performers, there's entertainers, there's people who are just interested in the whip part. They want to go and do the Wild West shows, or they want to be a part of an Indiana Jones reenactment kind of thing. So there's tons of people who have lots of different interests in this, but I think probably my most interesting student is the one I've had the longest and continuously. And his name is Jim Nash, and Jim is a great guy. He's been with me since 2002 and virtually every week, and he's just taken the whip on as something he wanted to do in his retirement. When he started, I believe he was 58, and he's learned so many different things that I learn more from him, I think, now at this point than he learns from me. He started out with a little $5 whip.
I brought with me a whip that I had obtained by filling out a box top on a cereal box and mailing it in. Many of the reasons that people take whip lessons, one is to crack a whip real loudly if they want to, or to learn how to target, have never really appealed to me that much. It's the physical aspect of it and how it makes me feel physically. And I'm 65 now, and I was about 57 when I started. And through that whole period, I attribute the way I feel and my outlook on life in many respects to coming out here.
I think the most interesting part of it is the fact that I get drawn into so many different organizations and groups, because I'll be one week at a science fiction convention with a bunch of Trekkies, and the next week I'm at a cowboy reenactment. Complete opposite ends of the world.